All right, hello and welcome to Your Story, Your Impact. Today's guest is Madeleine MacRae, and she is the CEO and founder of HomePro Toolbox, a platform offering quick, actionable training and tools tailored specifically for home improvement pros. She has helped thousands of business owners grow their companies, improve leadership, streamline operations, and her micro learning videos and practical resources make complex business challenges simple to solve. And so, Madeline, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess for those who maybe aren't familiar yet, why don't you kick us
Sure.
off, giving a quick intro in your own words, a little bit about who you are, your experience, and the work you're doing these days.
Yeah. Madeleine MacRae, I have been in the home improvement, home services space for the majority of my career, somewhat accidentally. I started off in the hurricane protection industry, rolled into the supplier side on tubular motors and controls, had a really fantastic corporate career. And about a decade ago, I splintered off from my beautiful corporate career to start up a coaching and consulting firm, helping small businesses grow. And during that time, I was amassing, all throughout that time, actually, I was amassing a really cool universe of content. I called it my vault that I turned into HomePro Toolbox several years ago. And I also, several years ago, merged my consulting firm with a business partner and created Procure Systems, which is the primary coaching and consulting firm. It's really consulting and business growth that I lead and manage and grow today.
Very cool. And so, I think you said that like, it's kind of in the process of ProQ is kind of taking over the home crew.
Yeah, so ProQ Systems is going to be purchasing Home Pro Toolbox because we use it as our digital content library to support all of our clients and the content that, when my business partner and I merged, the cool thing was he had some missing puzzle pieces, I had some missing puzzle pieces, and we kind of brought them together. It's really one of those 1 + 1 = 11 sort of
Hmm.
business partnerships, and it has just been fantastic. And my point in building Home Pro Toolbox was to take all that tactical, practical, nuts and boltsy stuff about building, growing, scaling, managing a business, and
Right.
making it wildly accessible. So now we use Home Pro Toolbox to support all the content that our co-pilots, so that's what we call our consultants, our co-pilots guide clients through over the course of their work with us.
Gotcha. And so you started off maybe more on the business owner side, and then you transitioned more to the home service, right?
So I actually started off with a teeny tiny um, manufacturer way back in the very beginning after my college career, and I've never owned a home service business. I've always been on the support side through the manufacturing, through coaching and consulting, but I've always been involved in the home service or home improvement industry just through a wide variety of angles. And for the past decade, it's really been rolling up my sleeves, helping people assess where they are and get to where they want to grow through the various modalities, which we now call our progressive intelligence approach system, where you have organizational structures, big four, sales and marketing, finance, ops, and culture, and then also leadership development. So it's the same stuff I've always been doing, but just wrapped up in a really cool framework and made a little bit more scalable on my side so we can help a much larger group of people.
Yeah, very cool. And I guess also I think it's a good space just thinking about, the future long term. It's seems to be, at least for now, one of the industries that AI, is not gonna maybe touch immediately, right?
Well, you're definitely going to need someone to come in there and do the actual physical painting. Maybe there will be one day painting robots. I'm
Yeah,
just using painting as a random example. But yeah, definitely, AI is meant to, in my worldview, is meant to enhance the human experience
right.
and meant to help us take those repetitive tasks and upskill ourselves at speed. But there are certainly things that, humans still need to do, and people still need to live in homes, and things are still going to need to be done to and for their homes. So I think that we're here to stay for the long term.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I mean, it's here to stay whether we like it or not. So we can either
Sure,
complain about it or, use it to leverage our life. So,
sure, absolutely.
all right, cool. So I guess maybe what are the most common business challenges you see home improvement pros face today, and kind of how these challenges impact their growth?
I think that most people start a business, especially founders in our space. They start a business because they want freedom. And what they end up finding is that they don't feel so free after all. At first, they're doing everything, and then they bring on people to do stuff for them, and they start to delegate things
Hmm.
more or less effectively, depends on their background and their natural capacity. And they reach a certain place where they just can't grow anymore. Grit and hard work and tenacity and persistence, all those qualities that get you to that first little break point, big break point, really don't get you beyond into the next break point. And so I think one of the mistakes is that pouring more hard work into a problem when you've reached a plateau doesn't actually fix the problem. You
Hmm.
have to work differently, not harder.
Right.
And that component part is can be extremely challenging to identify. Where do I need to shift what I'm doing? And so often it comes with letting go of key things that honestly you could hire someone else to do, but
Hmm.
you yourself have to learn as the owner how to relinquish control and
Hmm.
how to delegate effectively, trust, lead, and manage not just team level people, but managers.
Right. Yeah, and I see this problem a lot with, especially in the contractor world, where they kind of want to wear all the hats, and they
Sure.
kind of have that resistance to kind of just like letting go and kind of relinquishing some of the reins to their team of
Yeah.
good people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really natural, normal human fear. It's that, yes, of course, you can trust yourself to get it done exactly the way that you want. But if you don't know how to trust other people to get it done, it's probably because there's lacking a system or
Mm.
a process, or there's some operational component part missing to be able to facilitate their achievement, right? If you're hiring the right people, which is challenging, you have to know who you need to hire. We call, what we look at kind of their key functions map, not just an organizational chart, but a key functions map. What are the functions in your business that need to be completed
Mhm.
from creating lead, inbound lead, creating promises, doing the sales for the clients, and then fulfilling those promises on the operational side and gathering the money in the end, right? So making sure that all those component parts of your business are running well. You have to understand what is required to make that happen in your business. And if you can map out those functions, map out those roles and responsibilities, not just the role and responsibility, but the function of the job. What is the purpose of this role? And you can see clearly what those are. What ends up happening is business owners proximity build out, right? They build the thing that's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing closest to them. And they hold on to the thing that they're really, really good at.
Mhm.
That can sometimes be their rate limiting factor, right? If you're amazing at sales and you continue to sell and you never learn how to coach, train, hire, mentor either a sales manager to build up your team or salespeople to sell for you, that you'll only be able to sell how much you can sell, right? And who is then leading the business? Who is then casting the vision and inspiring the team and building all of the other operational component parts of your future success? You
Right.
are making yourself the weakest link by resisting letting go of your strengths.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of contractors, it's like they don't know what they don't know, right?
That's
And
right.
once you can, identify that and kind of put all the pieces together, and you can really start growing for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very easy to get caught in the trap of, you know, what I've done has gotten me successful. And that's important, right? We don't want you to let go or to throw away the parts that made you successful in the first place. But you have to think of augmentation, right? Where can you add to it? Where can you build from? You're building a foundation. The foundation isn't the whole house, it's
Mhm.
just the foundation. And in order for that foundation in your business to be really, really strong, you have to take a minute and self-assess.
Right. Okay, cool. And then I guess how do you how do labor shortages and maybe the quality of skilled tradespeople affect contractors' daily operations,
Mhm.
long-term planning?
Yeah. So I mean, if you can't build it, buy it. If you can't buy it, build it. Right. So yes, there are certain pockets, many pockets where there's a lack of skilled trade labor, and you have to be advocating for your art, advocating for your trade, advocating for younger generations to see the possibility in what you're doing. So sometimes that means getting involved at the high school level. Sometimes that means getting involved with trade schools. Sometimes that means getting involved, fill in the blank. You have to be engaged in your community if you want that to change for your business. And some of that might mean figuring out how to attract young talent,
Mhm.
figuring out how to mentor people up, figuring out what is available in terms of education and what makes sense in your company in terms of bringing someone in, having them, scale up through your organization, skill up through your organization. You pay for all that and then they just take their skill elsewhere. There does have to be a reciprocating skin in the game, and that's something you can certainly create. There are so many ways to solve the problem. It's not a fast journey, but if you see that as a problem in your area, you have to take action now. Well, before you need the help, before you need the support, you need to get engaged now. You have to thinking about a problem now, because if you need someone who's going to take 3 or 4 years for them to upskill fully to what you need, then the process needs to start sooner than you think. So don't wait until it's an urgent problem for you. Start building sooner, start building now. Be brave, get out there, get your face out there, and get you the opportunities in front of people. People just don't know what's available to them. There's definitely a large prevalence of young people who maybe don't want to work quite that hard. But there are, for as many people as don't want to work that hard, there are plenty of people who want to work with their hands if only they knew that an opportunity existed.
Right.
So I would say don't blanket discount what might be available if you are willing to take on a little bit of mentoring. It can really change your life.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I just had a couple conversations with people in this space that kind of focus on recruiting and hiring. And they were saying similar to how you always want to be marketing and advertising, you kind of
Yes.
always want to be recruiting.
Yes.
You
One of
want,
the
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the roles of an owner is to keep their eye out for talent, right? Look for talent everywhere. I'll never forget one day, I was living in Michigan at the time, and I had gone to Chipotle for lunch. I love Chipotle,
Mhm.
not sponsored. Just happen to love I love Chipotle and I also love Taco Bell, right? There's a theme in my delights. So I I was in the Chipotle line and I watched this woman adjust her approach to every single person that she encountered. Right, she was the one who was putting the tortillas in the little compressor machine, the hot heating up machine. I have no idea what that's called, and then filling it up with the first stage before they passed it on to the cheese and toppings section of the assembly line. Right,
Mhm.
and she would greet each person with a different greeting. She would adjust her approach based on who was in front of her. So there was a guy with 2 young kids. She talked to him totally different than the lady behind him who was in a suit. Talked to her totally different to the next guy that was in gym shorts. And she adjusted her approach based on her audience in every single instance. And at that stage of my business building, I was in the early stages of building my own business, and I didn't have any opportunity for her. And there were no local clients that I could have snagged her for. But if I had been a business owner in the home improvement space, I would have hired her immediately
Mhm.
because she read people naturally. She wasn't even trying. The way you could have taken that skill and taken that talent and added skill to it, she could have developed into a leader. She could have developed into sales. She could develop in a wide variety of ranges. So,
Mhm.
in order to spot talent, you have to know what you need on your team. You have to understand what your company values are. You have to understand what you're trying to do with your company in
Mhm.
order to be able to see people that are going to be an effortless match for that.
Yeah, and I like that also because not just about tailoring your approach to each person, but also I imagine a lot of people would probably, complain about that type of work and think it's kind of beneath them. But like
Sure.
taking that, like no matter how menial the work might be, just kind of, being in the present moment and doing it to the best of your ability, I think can be really
Absolutely.
empowering.
Yeah, that's the best way to get your talent spotted is to be excellent in everything that you do. Doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter how big. If you said yes to it, which when you accept a job, you're saying yes to it, you have the responsibility to bring your A game. right? And whatever that might mean for you, right? I mean, I waited tables when I was in college. There's no shame. And I have friends who still wait tables. It's actually their career. They love being in the service industry and hospitality, and that's what they want to do with their lives. No shame in that game, right? The service industry takes a lot of different faces. You can, from restaurants to home services, there's lots of spaces and faces there. Um, but just knowing that if you want more out of your life, if you don't want to stay in a entry level position or you don't want to be in the service space directly in that way, being excellent today is the fastest path to having a different tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so easy to, stand out today because so many people are maybe distracted or, not, you know, putting in the best of their ability. But yeah, I think that the bar has gotten lower. And so even just, showing up to the best of your ability can really make you stand out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of looking at it. It's so easy to stand out today. I love that.
Okay, yeah. So then I guess specifically for maybe home service people, how do they typically, and from what you're seeing, how do they typically manage marketing and sales, and what are their kind of main pain points in attracting and retaining customers?
Yeah. So that's a how long is a rope? That's a pretty big one. It really depends on their stage of growth, right? So sales and marketing in our paradigm is one pillar because your messaging needs to be consistent whether you're marketing or you're selling, right? So marketing is the art of attracting attention, is the art of having people stop in their tracks, see what you're doing, and recognize that it's something that they want or need, right? And that is a really different discipline than selling.
Mhm.
Selling is about creating an opportunity for someone to step forward and say yes, right? But there's a continuity there, right? Because the person who says yes needs to get into that funnel, right? So when we're talking sales and marketing for our clients specifically, unless you're at plus 2, 3 million, you should have about 60% of your lead volume being driven by digital advertising because it's something you can control, something that you can measure, something that you can um, highly manage. And most small business owners have with 60% of their business is coming from repeat and referral business over which they have no control. So if
Mhm.
you're able to take that 60% and augment it, right,
Right.
by bringing something in that you can control, that's one of the key pieces that we look for, making sure that your messaging is powerful and attractive and really truly talks about what you do, not just about what you sell. And then making sure that your ad strategy, your marketing strategy. So, of course, there's branding, but when we're talking marketing strategy right here, we're talking about lead generation. But your lead generation strategies are highly digital so that there can be manageable, movable, expandable. And then from there, there's so many other activities that to manage sales, of course, there's thousands of different avenues to take.
Right. Yeah, and for sure. And I like what you said about digital because, in the olden days when we were A/B testing maybe like a billboard or a magazine, it wasn't always clear like which one is bringing in the customers. But now, we have so much data to look at with digital advertising. We can, we don't really have that excuse anymore. We can look at the data and say, okay, this one is bringing in more traffic,
Yeah,
etc.
for sure. I mean, there's still great value in mass media. There's still great value in some of the more old school methodologies, right?
For sure.
Doing door hangers and sending postcards and doing physical mailers. Oh my, that's not dead. Print is not dead. It's actually can be highly effective in markets where it's underutilized because, again, it's that standing out, right? Nobody's doing it. So in doing the old school thing, you're actually old is new again. So it's not dead at all. It's just you have to be aware that you're going to be doing activities within your marketing. So let's say some of your social and your newsletter that you send out and your that billboard or the wrap that you have on your truck or the uniforms that you're investing in for your team or whatever it might be. Those are all marketing activities that are indirectly influencing lead generation. Unless you're doing a direct call to action lead generation activity, the marketing that you're investing in is an indirect support to your lead generation strategies. So you have to be really diligent on, when you're looking at that spend, not cutting off your nose to spite your face. We're not going to suddenly stop all social and forget about our website because no, we're not sending leads there. Um, because then you'd have an indirect impact, right? So, or a direct impact sometimes. So you just have to really look at a well-rounded process for marketing, but really be cognizant of when you're spending dollars that are intended to convert into leads,
Mm.
that you really focus well on whether or not that's performing to your standard.
For sure. Yeah, and I like that you said that about, the old school definitely isn't dead. And one of my mentors said, what is the least crowded channel?
Mm,
Everyone is doing social media, social media, social media, DMs, DMs, DMs all day. Um, but if you think about it, I think a big one is direct mail, like
hmm
a letter in the mailbox. And one big benefit of that is that those letters can stick around, for years. I've had friends where they send it out and then they open it a year later and they're getting back to it. So I think it can be a powerful channel as well.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, cool. So then I guess also, let's see, maybe what trends or changes in maybe homeowner behavior and expectations are, contractors noticing, how are they adapting their services accordingly?
You know, we take a pretty bold stance on telling your business where it's going to go and not reacting to the market outside of you exclusively.
Mhm.
So, some of homeowners' behaviors, yes, they're going to change. Yes, there's shifting expectations. Yes, they want to see more digital tools being used. They're going to respect you more if you pull out a laser measure than if you pull out a tape measure. Yes. They're investing in some people, it depends on the pocket of the world you're in, but they're investing in their homes, right? They want to have a forever home. They want to have a wider variety of options. They want green conscious options.
Mhm.
Again, different areas are going to be more heavily influenced. If you're selling in Denver or you're selling maybe in California, you better be bringing some A game eco-friendly options to the table where maybe if you're selling in Kentucky, not as important, right? So you have to be cognizant of where you actually live and the consumer demands and what people actually want in your market, but not wait so long to bring in innovations that you get your last to the table, right? You're playing from behind. So yes, you want to keep your finger on the pulse of how homeowners' philosophies around their homes are changing, how they look at their home, how they think about their home. If we were talking, in 2019 or even early 2020 before COVID, the whole phenomenon of working at home wasn't a thing, right? So that changed homeowner behavior quite substantially. How they live and use their homes changed.
Yeah.
And companies that were, for instance, selling custom closets had a great opportunity to shift gears and offer tons of small footprint built-in offices, right? Like tons of different opportunities that came around because of dynamic shifts in the market. You have to be agile enough to adjust to those. You also can't be so agile that you fall trap to shiny object syndrome and you change your business, change your business, change your business, change your business so much that
Yeah.
there's nothing stable to it. So
Right.
you need to be directing your business, telling it where to go, keeping your finger on the pulse of industry trends, innovations, updated expectations and demands that customers might have, and being ready to meet those demands without being kind of pulled everywhere which way
Yeah.
by the fleeting nature of human interest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about like you want to pay attention to the news and the market and what's happening, but at the same time, like if you let it in too much, it can really kind of sour your outlook almost.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we actually had a client hop on one of our expansion calls. So we do expansion calls once a month, which is personally with me. They get to ask me anything, try and stump Madeline. All of our clients are welcome to join and their executive leadership teams. And we do a quick training and then we do a open ask me anything sort of call. And one of the people said, like, what do I do because I'm getting so freaked out about the economy, right? This is a couple months ago. I don't know where things are going to go. I'm terrified about tariffs. Like, I'm just finding it so hard. And one of the things that I said is like, listen, if the news cycle is disempowering you, take a diet, take a break. You do not have to watch it. You can be informed and you can be aware without being fully plugged in all the time. And yes, you don't want to ostrich. You don't want to shove your head in the sand and pretend things aren't going along. But you have to remember that as a business owner, it is your responsibility to be well on demand for your team. Be mentally well, be emotionally well, be physically well on demand for your team. And if what you're ingesting, the news and the information that you're taking in, is making you emotionally, spiritually unwell, stop it. You got to take a break a little bit. And I think just the permission to unplug can be really powerful. And remember that, for every person who thinks what's happening is horrible, there's also people who think it's delightful, right? So there is some space always to move. People are going to continue to buy. People are going to continue to invest in their homes. People are going to continue to live in their homes, right? And so being there, being present, and not being too terrified by what may or may not happen is really, really important, right? Maybe, just maybe, you need to think about, where is your ideal client? How can you soften or adjust or address their concerns in a gentler way? What can you do to help make that gap easier for them? But you just can't be running around in fear. Your business isn't going to go anywhere if you do that.
For sure. Yeah, and I've gotten like a little bit into, metaphysics recently, and they talk about, mental diet. And it's
Hmm.
funny how in the same way, like people are so, conscious about, you know, food diet, like
Sure.
very conscious about that, but then, mental diet, I think for a lot of people can become like almost an afterthought.
Sure.
So it's important to think like, yeah, if it's souring your mindset, it's too negative, it's kind of like junk food. Junk food.
Yeah, it's not just kind of like junk food. It is junk food, and sometimes it's straight poison,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you're just, so I look at this in parenting, right? My son's dad passed away several years ago, but before that, we had gone our separate ways. And I had watched many people with a split parents sour their child against the other parent. I'd watched it happen in my friend group, not directly with them, but with their parents towards them. And I never understood, how can you poison the child's heart and then not expect that poison to be pervasive?
Hmm.
They have one heart. They
Yeah.
don't have two separate hearts. And if you poison their heart towards their parent, it's also poisoned towards you to some degree, right? Because you put poison in that heart. So
Hmm.
how can you expect that to be a good outcome? It's not. It's going to be a bad outcome for the child. You poisoned their heart, period,
Hmm.
right? You can't just siphon off the one little box where the other parent lives and just poison that one little part. It's not how it works. We
Right.
bring all of who we are to everything we do. We're a totality of a person. The same goes for business owners. You are a totality of a person. There's a physical side to you, there's a spiritual side to you, there's an emotional side to you, there's an intellectual side to you, and you can't starve one component of yourself and expect the whole self to be healthy, right? So as a business owner, you have an even bigger responsibility to be mindful about what you're ingesting
Right.
emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, because you need to be well for your team, right? It's a responsibility. It's not just a nice to have.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I saw this great analogy. Our thoughts and what we put out is almost like a boomerang. It comes back to us like that.
Always.
I thought that was a
Absolutely.
So yeah, I
Yep.
guess speaking about that, what do you find are the key mindset shifts or leadership skills contractors need to develop to run a more, sustainable and profitable business?
Yeah. So I teach four dimensions of leadership: leadership of self, leadership up, leadership across, leadership down. Most leadership focuses on leadership of team, which is leadership down. And I think that that is a mistake. I think that if you really want to better your best, focus on self leadership first.
Mm.
Because if you can bring your A game, your self A game to the table, you will create a rising tide in your business. Absolutely. It's actually why I wrote my first book, The Tenacious Pursuit of Peace, Where to Go When Success is Not Enough, about that self-leadership, understanding who you are, making peace with who you are, making peace with your past, right? It's not a nice to have, it's actually the secret of the most successful.
Mhm. Very nice. Yeah, I think inner peace can be, super, very important, especially in this space to really get.
Absolutely. Yep.
Go. All right, cool. So then I guess also from your perspective, other than HomePro Toolbox, of course,
Sure.
what are the most effective strategies or tools contractors can use to kind of improve their processes, maybe such as onboarding, goal setting, follow-up, and project management, things like that?
Yeah. Um, you have to have a organized structure to your business. So we call what we bring to the table a flexible framework. You have to understand how your business ticks, and you can't wing it every day, right? We all build from what we know. We do the best that we can with what we have. We continuously try, continuously work to up level our skills. But you really having a solid framework from the start is going to be a huge, huge, huge advantage to building a really successful business. There are lots of business systems out there. There's lots of different ways out there. Ours is called ProQ, Progressive Intelligence, and identifying a business system that works for you and implementing a system of accountability, a system of organization, a system into your business is going to be hugely valuable to your future success.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, especially in this space, contractors are really good, with their hands and building things. And so, having the right tools in place and technology can really be a good, team together for sure.
Sure. Absolutely. You got to have great information, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If you're just jotting it down on a piece of paper, the likelihood that paper gets lost is high, right? Avail yourself of the tools that are around you. There's incredible software, there's incredible resources. Why would you limit yourself at this stage of the game? I think that's a little bit short-sighted.
For sure. All right, cool. So I guess like two last ones for you. Do you see maybe supply chain disruptions and material price, volatility kind of influence a contractor's project bidding or in customer communication, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people get scared, right?
Mm,
Contractors, owners, they're just people too. And they get scared. And there's a really, really strong reality when there is volatility in the marketplace, when there is market disruptions. But in my perspective, it's not something that hasn't happened before. It might be having a different label today, but there were product supply chain issues in the past. There are going to be supply chain issues in the future.
mm,
It's something you need to write into your contracts so
mm,
you are protected. There are certain things that, just as much as if a fire were to happen and to burn down all the lumber you're going to use to build the house, that's why you carry insurance, right? You have to protect yourself. And if you haven't protected yourself with your contracts, if they're not strong enough, then you need to proactively communicate to customers what you can and what you cannot do. And there are certainly, it's better to walk away from a project. Of course, if do it in good faith, if you've already started, don't ditch a customer midway through, but then to lose money, right? It would be much better for you to proactively communicate if there's been a major change, major disruption that is going to make it wildly unfeasible for you to do the project at the price you've quoted. It is well within your right to walk away, communicate effectively with the client, give them a chance to meet you, work with them, see what they can do. And if they're inflexible and you're going to lose your shirt on it, it's better to walk away than to end up paying for a project out of your own pocket.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. And I guess recently I had a few different people, contractors complain to me about it can be kind of a pain to write up a whole long estimate or proposal, just to have the homeowner be like, not now. And so
Sure.
like kind of leveraging technology or AI to kind of automate that for them, I think there's a something to be said for that for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there are lots of companies that will charge just to put a proposal together if the scope of work is large, because that is a service in and of itself. Specifying what needs to happen is a service and you know what needs to happen because you're trained and it's part of your expertise and the gift you bring. And there certainly are companies who charge for that. And if that's, then that price goes into the purchase, right? It also creates a little bit of stickiness because people aren't going to pay for something that they're not serious about doing.
For sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of new business owners get this wrong where they're so focused on like their thing, like oh, I do SEO, I do ads, all this. But when you can build it around the problem that they have that they're complaining about, and then kind of let you leverage technology to solve that problem, that's a lot more effective for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, cool. And so the last one I always like to ask people is if you could theoretically take a magic wand and change one thing about the home service space, what
Mhm.
might that be?
Wow. Magic wand to change one thing.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I would make it financially impossible for people who were predatory to make money.
Mm,
There are so many shady, predatory, ugly humans
mm,
who do ugly business practices, who tarnish the otherwise beautiful work and reputations and capacities of good companies. I would make it physically impossible for shady characters to be present in our industry.
mm. Interesting. I mean, yeah, I guess I think about that. I scroll through groups a lot of contractors, and yeah, I see now that you mention it, a lot of contractors will like take all this money up front and then they'll disappear.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for sure.
There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of, I mean, that's just straight out stealing,
Yeah.
right? So there's that type of fraud, but there's also fraudulent promises, right? You promise one thing, you do another.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of, because again, homeowners don't know what they don't know. And there are just so many opportunities to weasel a little bit.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't say the best that you can do or what other things that nature. I'm saying that don't lie, cheat, and steal. When you lie, cheat, and steal, you tarnish the industry and the experience for other people. And it's just wrong, right? You actually take homeowners, and usually they're lying, cheating, and stealing from the people who can afford it the least, right? You
Yeah.
take someone who's earned that money with their own blood, sweat, and tears, and you've robbed them. And then you've left your mess in someone else's hands to try and fix. But that person is now, the homeowner is now full of fear. And you have to, a good, solid company has to work twice as hard to regain the trust that someone unrighteously stole out of their hands. So that's what I would do with my magic wand, make the world just a little bit of a better place.
Very cool. Very cool. Good answer. Okay, yeah. So Madeline, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing so much experience and wisdom with us. For anyone who wants to learn more about you, HomePro Toolbox or ProQ, or just kind of follow along with the work you're doing, what's the best place for them to find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on procusystems.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Madeleine MacRae. You'll see my face if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast, you
Mm.
can type in Madeleine MacRae, and I'm pretty easy to find. I'm pretty public. So definitely follow me on LinkedIn. Happy to see you there.
All right, awesome. Yeah, we will make sure to link that up in the description as well.
Wonderful.
So yeah, thanks again for being here. I really enjoyed the conversation and definitely hope to possibly collaborate more with you down the road.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Your Story, Your Impact. We will see you next time.